Hello and welcome to the Philippines. It is news day in the Philippines. There's quite a bit in the news here the last few days, so let's get into it. This is from the Phil Star, Philippines Star, online edition, Zamboanga, which is in southwest Mindanao, the very southern island. The cops confirmed the death of kidnapped American. This was, I think, over a month ago. He was kidnapped. 4 people came into his house with guns. He resisted. They shot him a couple times in the legs, apparently, and anyway they took him away. And apparently, the article says that the people involved, they've captured a couple, killed a couple, I think, and the person involved said that he died on the boat as they left, and they threw him overboard. American vlogger Elliot O'Neill Eastman was killed shortly after being kidnapped in Cebuco town, Zamboanga del Norte, last October. They obtained the information in the course of its investigation that Eastman died on the night of his abduction. And I think many people kind of assumed that. He shot twice in the leg with a M16 or some large caliber gun, and you're not going to a hospital, probably don't have many hours left on this earth. The confirmation came a month and 18 days after the American was kidnapped by 4 men in front of his residence. Eastman, 26, was a native of Vermont, USA, settled in Cebuco after marrying a Muslim woman. And I think he converted to Islam, and he was warned. He was warned by people that there were others that wanted to kidnap him. He had a YouTube channel. He talked about that. Pretty young guy, a little naive, perhaps. Not perhaps, a little naive. And yeah, you make choices in life, and some are riskier than others. Anyway, the witness allegedly disclosed that Eastman was shot twice when he resisted his captors, and he died on the motorized banca while being transported away from Cebuco. Upon learning that Eastman died, his captors decided to throw his body overboard. And this next story shows a map of kind of this general area. This is in southwest Mindanao. And this article, Marawi, which is a town up here, Marawi, Vice Mayor nabbed for NBI agent slay. And, political violence is alive and well, primarily in southwest Mindanao, but a couple other places in the Philippines as well. Very, very, very extremely rare that any tourists would be affected or involved in anything like that. Anyway, here's Zamboanga del Norte, Zamboanga del Sur, the north, and Sur is south. And a little bit of additional information. Lanao del Sur, a few years ago, there was a huge battle. Islamic terrorists took over the town down here of Marawi and sits on the lake. I think it's on the northern end of that lake, I believe. But there was many months there was a battle that took place between the Philippine military and the insurgents, the terrorists, the Islamic terrorists down here, and they did major damage to that town. They had jets. Philippine jets bombing and tanks down there, and did major damage before they killed or captured most of them. There were a few that fled, I think, probably got loose, and what you'll find, there's families, there's clans, there's tribes around the various areas of the Philippines, and even within their Islamic system, there will be clashes over who owns fishing rights, over who owns land rights, those sort of things. So kind of like the Hatfields and McCoys down in Kentucky, the feuds go on, the families fight. It's not always about religion. It could be about land or water or fishing rights or different things like that. In fact, I'll tell you a story. Uh, my girlfriend's father fled some of these areas in southwest Mindanao a couple decades ago. They were fishing off in the sea, and they were the people in another boat fired on them, and she said they never saw their uncle again. They think he was probably killed in that. The other Filipinos, they got to shore, they crawled to get to safety, and they fled that area. They grabbed their families, whatever they could, and they fled. I think they moved to Bohol, and then eventually to Mactan Island near Cebu. But that kind of thing takes place even up on Bantayan Island. I read an article a couple months ago. There were some people that approached a fishing vessel. Bantayan Island is on the north end of Cebu Island, and these people said, "You're fishing in our waters." So there are individuals that claim water, just like people claim land. And anyway, the fishing boat tried to escape. They were shot at. One person got killed in the situation. Anyway, the next story here: 2NPA. That NPA is the military side of the Communist Party here in the Philippines, and they are a lot less active than they were 9 years ago when I first came here. They have integrated a lot of them back into society. They've killed some and disrupted their operations. Anyway, 2NPA leaders among Samar clash fatalities. Samar, northern Samar, you will read about this type of thing on occasion. And generally, they're again not in a tourist area. They're usually up in the hinterlands, up in areas where they don't get much news, much government assistance. A lot of times the government's been trying to change that over the last few years and contact these people and help them with various infrastructure items, internet, roads, water, food, those types of things. I'm going to talk a little bit about earthquakes here in a bit. There was a big 7 point something and a 5.8 that happened over in California, and that there was a tsunami warning along the coast of California. But even over here in Asia, for briefly, there was a tsunami warning over here. And years ago, when Japan had a big earthquake, there was a small tsunami that hit the west coast of the U.S. and even did some damage to boats in certain harbors there as the larger waves came in. Anyway, 3 NPA tax collectors surrender in this is down in the south as well, very southwest Mindanao, and tax collectors being there again the NPA, the armed wing of the Communist Party. They extort money out of villagers, money and food from villagers and from companies, and you don't pay us, we will attack your plantations and your banana, pineapple, other types of plantations, your farms. We'll burn your trucks and your equipment. We will kill some of your workers. And anyway, like I said earlier, more and more of them are giving up and coming back into the government. Taal Volcano erupts in phreatomagmatic event. Say that 3 times real fast. The Taal Volcano in Batangas area, the southwest part of Luzon Island, south of Manila, and it went off a few years ago, and ash even spread over the Manila metropolitan area. There is if you're interested in more details, there is a YouTube channel, a site called Geology Hub, and he puts out some interesting information. He rates this as the most dangerous, if not one of the most dangerous, volcanoes in the world. I think partly because it is active, regularly active, partly because it is close to so many millions and millions of people. Just like Pinatubo that went off there again, what, back in, was it 1991, 1980s? I don't have the date in my mind right now. Pinatubo that went off up outside of, up in the area of Angeles City, up north of there. Years ago, forced the U.S. military to shut down their base, move everything out of there. Had like a foot or more of volcanic ash on the ground. And there are documentaries about that, and worth watching those. Anyway, would I live in the shadow of a volcano? No, not if I had a choice, and I do have a choice. Canleon volcano over on Negros Island has been regularly, in fact, I get alerts on my phone every day that it has spewed a little bit of ash and sulfur dioxide up, and a few earthquakes. They are not expecting a big eruption, but nature can surprise men and their models. Kawit typhoon victims get aid. We had unprecedented almost in recent history. 4 typhoons hit within like a month, and they hit primarily the northern end of Luzon Island, and just one after the other within 1 month. Flooded areas, the high winds, the heavy rains, the flooding, devastated. Tens of thousands of people were evacuated, and many still unable to go back to their homes. I am sure. Anyway, they're getting government aid. The government here, back in the USA, we had the which typhoon, well, hurricane, you call them hurricanes, hit New Orleans area, and Bush Jr. was president, and the government agencies were lambasted for not being prepared, not getting in and doing what they should have been doing. It's gotten much better in the USA since then. And the same thing's happened over the years here. The government agencies are getting much better at pre-positioning supplies and military people, police, to help evacuate people, to help rescue people, to help feed people, take care of their needs. So that is the good news here in the Philippines, even though they can be hit. I think up to like 20, 21 tropical storms come into the Philippine area of responsibility, which is a rectangle around the Philippines. And many of those do not make landfall, but they certainly can affect the weather and do some major damage, even if the eye does not actually hit landfall here in the Philippines. They generally go northwest, occasionally, like December 2021, we had Super Typhoon Odette come through, and it kept its strength, and even did major damage in Cebu Island as well. Usually the outer islands, Leyte, Samar, Bohol, take the brunt of those storms, and they lose much of their power before they get to Cebu and other islands. Just like it happens in the Gulf of Mexico and Florida, once those hurricane storms hit land, they usually lose a lot of their strength. NBI raids marijuana plantation. Now, many countries have legalized either medical marijuana or even small amounts of marijuana. And even Thailand did here, a couple of years ago, I think, but they're kind of backing back off of that, I think. I've read that they were going to go back to it being a controlled substance. Not sure if they've actually done that yet or not. Anyway, you don't want to be caught with that or other drugs here in the Philippines. The jails here, the prisons, are not a place where you want to spend your vacation time or the rest of your life. 47 arrested, 61 combat weapons seized in Mindanao Army police ops. And yeah, there's a lot of guns in the Philippines. I was asked when I first came here the first year, talking to a taxi driver, and he said, "Do you want to buy a gun, sir?" No, no, I don't want to buy a gun. I don't need that problem. I feel safe walking around. I don't need a gun. Um, Although, years ago I traveled from the U.S. I think, across from Detroit into Canada, where they've got very strict laws on guns, and they asked me, "Do you have a gun with you?" I said, "No, no, ma'am." "Do you own guns?" I said, "Yes, I own several guns. Many people in the U.S. We hunt and we fish, and many of us own guns." And she said, "Okay, go on your way." They didn't go any further with that. But as I've been in Canada a few times and talking to Canadians, many Canadians own guns, and I talked to a few people. They didn't know that there were strict gun laws in Canada. They own handguns and long guns, and so the authorities can make whatever kind of laws. They tried to outlaw alcohol. What, back in the 20s, I think, 1920s? How did that go over? Yeah. Outlaw, people say outlaw guns. Well, hey, outlaw drugs. Well, they already have. And yet it's still a major problem. Just outlaw them. That'll fix the problem, right? Perhaps need a little deeper thinking on some of these issues. Another point on crime here. There are certain areas you don't want to go into. Um, I think the country is much better than it was 20 years ago. When I first came here, I told people I want to go down to the big public market downtown on Cologne Street, the oldest street in the Philippines. And people told me, "No, sir." Filipinos said, "No, sir, it's dangerous down there. You don't want to go down there." And after a couple months, I got up my courage and I went down there and been down there many times since, and absolutely no problem. Just like anywhere in the world, when you get into very crowded areas, you want to guard your possessions. If you've got a wallet or money or necklace or jewelry. I've had a couple people tell me they had a lady told me she had a necklace ripped off of her. Um, I know my girlfriend has said one of her coworkers riding on with her husband on the back of a motorbike, and she's using her phone. A lot of these people, they use their phone when they're riding and or driving a motorbike, and somebody comes up beside them, grabbed her new phone and took off, and she just bought it. So yeah, you need to be careful. There are snatchers out there, but as far as violent crime, almost no violent crime against foreigners and tourists here, and the little that is usually could have been prevented. Uh, Over the years, I've read about where a foreigner will get not will not back down from a confrontation with he's drunk and the Filipino is drunk and there's some argument about something, and in their bravado, one pulls out a gun or a knife, and that kind of ends the fight right there. So be calm, smile. I smile. I say hello to a lot of people. I think it disarms them. I act as a diplomat from my country. You're walking down the street or you're in an area with a lot of Filipinos. They don't know who you are. They don't know if you're a good person, a bad person. They don't know what language you speak, what your intentions are. And I smile and say hello to a lot of people, and I get a smile and hello, good afternoon, good evening, right back 99% of the time. Very rare that I get a kind of a gruff look. And shabu. Shabu is illegal. Shabu shabu is legal. Shabu shabu, I think, is some kind of a soup. Anyway, shabu, a drug that's very common here. 1.3 million. I see these types of articles daily from around the Philippines. There's a lot of I was talking to some police years ago, and they said that most arrests here in the Philippines are from undercover police. So be aware of that. Be aware of that. There are a lot of undercover police out and about, so be careful. Just a word of warning there. There again, Taal Volcano. Taal Volcano is a volcano inside of a volcano. There is the outer volcano, and Taal Volcano is another volcano coming up out of the center, basically. I'm not sure that all the technical descriptions of how that is, but that's basically what it is. Before it erupted a number of years ago, not that many years ago, it was very common. They had you could go over there. You could take a boat ride over there, and they would have horse rides. They had horses on the island, and you could take horse rides around the volcano. Maybe up to the top, look down inside. I'm not sure. There were people farming over there, making a living. Fishermen, people were fishing in these waters, and during and after that eruption, some people tried to get their horses into small little boats, tried to get them off that volcano. Many of them died on the volcano. They ended up with a big exclusion zone around here different times, and I don't think you're allowed on that inner volcano any longer because it is an ongoing active, hasn't blown its top, so to speak, for a number of years, but it could. You also have the town and development area of Tagaytay. Tagaytay, I think I said that almost correctly. That is a kind of a tourist destination. They've got condos and houses, subdivisions in that area, very near this volcano. Would I live in the shadow of a volcano? Absolutely not. I would not. And this was in the news about a week ago. A fire hit the largest poor barangay housing area in Manila, November 28th, and demolished over 1,000, I think over 1,000 of these shanties. And I don't know if anybody was killed. That is an amazing thing. A lot of the big fires here are these types of places. Bad wiring, somebody leaves a candle burning. They often cook with wood or charcoal, and something catches on fire. There is no fire suppression systems. There are no alarms. The alarms are people hollering, "Fire! Fire!" People grab the few things that they can and try to get out of the area. One of the big problems in the Philippines is with agriculture. In fact, the Philippines, surprisingly, is the largest importer of rice in the world as a nation, which is very, very surprising. Land area, it's about the size of Arizona or Nevada in the USA, land area-wise, but a lot of mountains, a lot of areas. It's either too much water or not enough water. We had a drought in 2015 when I came here during the wet season. We had a drought 4 years later, 2019. And about 4 years later, 2024, we had the worst drought. Didn't have hardly any rain for about 3 months. And then it rained and wouldn't stop raining for another more than a month, I think. So yeah, too much rain or not enough rain is an issue. And then the ability to irrigate certain land plots, that type of thing, is it's being improved, but got a long ways to go. Do you like shellfish? There's a shellfish ban up in 6 areas, and because of what they call the red tide, the toxic red tide, and it gets into certain types of fish, and very dangerous to be eating certain types of shellfish and a couple other types of fish. There's Some that you can eat if you thoroughly wash it, but do your research. You don't want to get extremely ill on something like that. Love scam cases dropped by 51%, at least according to the anti-cybercrime group. Cases that are being, are they being reported? That's the big thing. I did a video just a few days ago about sextortion, extortion over sex, and I thought it would get a lot of views. Did not get that. Got almost up to 1,000 views, I think. But I was surprised more people didn't go into that. At the end of the video, I had a link to, in the description of that video, I've got a link to a documentary about love scams, sextortion, where people extort money from you over getting you to undress and do things online. They do that type of thing. Worth watching the video and checking out that documentary. The good news for the dollar exchange rate is that it is still well above 57 pesos to the US dollar. And if you have other currencies, you can go over and check this out. And this gives it each day. This is 13 hours ago. It's on the upward swing. Yesterday it was over 58. The US dollar. When I came here in 2015, it was 48.5. And I've had people message me and tell me when they came in certain years, it was about half of that, down in the I think mid to higher 20s. So that helps. That helps with the inflation, because we definitely get that's the one bad thing, because we import a lot of goods here because of the low exchange rate for the Philippine peso. Things cost more to bring them in, so then they're more expensive on the shelf. So it's kind of a take out of one hand and out of one pocket, put in the other pocket type thing. Some days, depending upon types of items that you buy. But anything above 50, I'm pretty happy with anything above 50, and then for many, many months. I think it dropped down in the 56 range here a while back, but it is back up here. We'll see. There are big swings if you look at 5-year and 10-year and 20-year. You can see it fluctuates a lot, all the different currencies. One other story here that some of you would be interested in. Some time back I did a video about drone laws here in the Philippines. They are revisiting the rules, and federally the national government has not come out with regulations yet, new regulations, but cities are starting to come out with their own ordinances. And anyway, let's go down here, and this is Bacolod City. Approved on its first reading an ordinance requiring the registration of remotely piloted aircraft systems or drones within the city, declaring areas as no-fly zone and providing penalties for violations thereof. He said a notable increase in the number of drones within the city prompted the necessity for the regulation of the same, including the inventory thereof, and most importantly, the limitations as to their use. Villarosa noted that the paramount importance of this ordinance is to protect the privacy, security, and safety of the people as a whole. And down here there's some information about fines if you're caught flying one without the registration. First offense, 1,000 pesos, about $20, confiscation of the drone, and a fine of 1,000 for the second offense. And for operating drone in no-fly zone, they would be fined 1,000 for the first offense and 5,000 pesos for the second offense, and the third offense would be confiscation of the drone, a fine of 10,000 or imprisonment of not less than a month, but not more than 6 months, or both at the discretion of the court.